47 missed calls. 11 voicemails. 62 text messages. I woke up to a heart attack. Not a literal one, but the adrenaline spike that detonates in your chest when you see that many notifications stacked on your lock screen at 3:14 in the morning. The kind that makes your hands move before your brain does. Unlock, what happened, who died. The last text was from my mother. It read, "Nadia, pick up the phone right now, this is not a game." All caps. No punctuation on the period. That was how I knew it was real. I sat up in my apartment in Denver. November. The radiator in the corner of my bedroom ticked and groaned the way it always did when the temperature outside dropped below 20. My cat, Lentil, was asleep at the foot of the bed, and for exactly 3 seconds I considered lying back down, pulling the covers over my head, and becoming a different person who had a different family. Then my phone rang again. I answered. Finally. My father's voice came through like something compressed, distant, tinny, too loud all at once. There was noise behind him. Voices. A hard acoustic surface like tile or concrete. "We've been calling for 4 hours. Where were you?" "Sleeping," I said. "It's 3 in the morning, Dad." "It doesn't matter what time it is." He didn't say hello. He never did when there was money involved. "We have a situation. My name is Nadia Ostroff. I am 31 years old. I am a property appraiser licensed in Colorado, and I have spent the last 8 years building a career from nothing. From absolutely, documentably nothing, while my family spent those same 8 years treating my bank account like a community resource they hadn't gotten around to formalizing yet. I should explain what I mean by that. My parents are Renata and Grigory Ostroff. My sister is Polina, 34, who has never held a job for longer than 14 months but has somehow always had a new car in the driveway. My brother is Dmitry, 28, who my parents describe as finding himself, and who I would describe as someone who has been finding himself for 6 years on money that doesn't belong to him. I was the middle child. The responsible one. The one who got a part-time job at 16 bagging groceries at a King Soopers in Aurora, Colorado, because I wanted to buy my own school clothes and stop asking for things that caused arguments. I was the one who applied for every scholarship, took out the minimum in loans, graduated from University of Denver in 3 years to save tuition money, and passed my appraiser's exam on the first try at 23. I was also the one they called boys. Every time. Without fail. When Paulina's car got repossessed in 2019, my mother called me at work and cried until I wired $4,800. "It'll take 2 weeks to pay you back," she said. She never mentioned it again. When Dmitry got evicted from his apartment in Phoenix in 2021, my father called and explained it using a tone that suggested I was the one who had done something wrong. I sent $3,200. When my parents' boiler exploded in their house in Aurora and they needed a contractor immediately, I covered $11,000 and told myself it was a loan. I have a spreadsheet. I've always had a spreadsheet. The running total as of the night I'm describing was $47,300 across 9 years. None of it returned. None of it acknowledged. What I didn't have on the spreadsheet, what I couldn't have known to track, was the other number. But I'm getting there. The thing about being the responsible one in a family that practices what I've come to call benefactor's arithmetic, the unconscious belief that a family member's financial stability is a shared asset, infinitely drawable, requiring no accounting, is that it doesn't feel abusive in any single moment. It's designed not to. Each individual ask is framed as an emergency, a temporary situation, a family loyalty test. You don't recognize the pattern until you're standing far enough back to see the whole shape of it. I started seeing the shape around 2022. It was June. I had just closed a particularly good quarter. 6 commercial appraisals in the Denver Tech Center, plus 2 residential properties in Cherry Creek that required litigation support. I had $38,000 in my savings account. First time I'd crossed that threshold. I remember sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and looking at the number on my phone screen and feeling something close to safety. Not happiness exactly. Safety. My mother called 3 days later. Polina needed $9,000 for a deposit on a new apartment. Could I lend it? "She'll pay you back in installments," my mother said. "She's getting her life together." I said no. For the first time in 9 years I said no. The silence on the line lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then my mother said very quietly, "You can always make more, Nadia. You don't have children. You don't have a husband. What exactly are you saving it for? I didn't answer. I sat with that sentence for a long time afterward. What exactly are you saving it for? As though my financial security existed in a vacuum. Purposeless, selfish, simply waiting to be redirected toward someone who deserved it more. I didn't send the $9,000. But I also didn't close the door. I kept answering the phone. I kept listening to the emergencies. I kept being available because I didn't yet understand that availability to my family meant obligation. We need $42,000, my father said. Wired by tomorrow morning Lisbon time. I was sitting on the edge of my bed in the dark. Lentil had moved to my lap. The radiator ticked. Lisbon, I said. Your mother and I came for Paulina's. It doesn't matter. There was an incident at the hotel. What kind of incident? Pause. Background voices. Then my mother's voice, farther away, saying something in Russian I couldn't fully make out. My father came back on. Dmitri was with us. He got into a disagreement with someone at a restaurant. There's damage. There are legal fees. The hotel is involved. We need a lawyer here, Nadia, a local lawyer tonight, and we need to post a bond or they are going to detain us until... How much damage? I said. The amount doesn't matter. Dad. How much damage? Another pause. $42,000. Approximately. The lawyer is saying $42,000 to cover the bond and the initial legal fees and they... You want me to wire $42,000 to Lisbon at 3 a.m. We don't have a choice. His voice shifted then into a register I recognized, the one that meant the guilt portion of the conversation was beginning. You have savings. We know you have savings. This is a family emergency, Nadia. Your brother could go to jail. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I understand. Then wire the money. I'll send you the account details. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I said, give me a few minutes. I need to check my account. You have 15 minutes, my father said. The lawyer needs the confirmation by 4 a.m. their time. He said it the way he might say the dry cleaning needs to be picked up by 5. A logistics problem. A scheduling matter. $42,000 across an ocean in the middle of the night. And his voice carried no more urgency than a reminder about a dentist appointment. 15 minutes, I said. I opened my laptop. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't transfer a single dollar. I opened my credit monitoring app, the one I'd set up 2 years ago when I started doing litigation appraisals and needed to protect my professional credit profile. Credit Shield. The dashboard loaded. The red banner was at the top. 5 new accounts detected. Last updated, 11 days ago. I sat completely still for a moment. Lentil shifted on my lap. The radiator ticked once. I clicked. 5 accounts. A personal line of credit from a bank in Nevada I'd never done business with, $18,500. A retail credit card issued in my name, $4,200. A lease co-signature on an apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, flagged because the primary leaseholder had defaulted, $7,800 in arrears. A personal loan through an online lender, $11,000. And a second lease co-signature, this one in Aurora, Colorado, under an address I didn't recognize, $6,500. Total exposure, $48,000. I looked at those numbers for a long time. My coffee had gone cold. Outside the window, Denver was silent and dark, the kind of pre-dawn dark that has its own specific weight to it, a density. A quality of stillness that makes everything feel more precise. I thought about the spreadsheet I'd been keeping for 9 years. I thought about the word arithmetic. Then I thought about a piece of advice my mentor had given me 3 years ago, the first time I'd suspected a client was manipulating property documents. Don't react to what you see. React to what you can prove. I picked up the phone. Her name was Constance Mbeki. She was a financial crimes attorney in Denver, mid-50s, sharp with a dry manner and an encyclopedic knowledge of federal identity theft statutes. I had met her through a litigation appraisal case in 2022. And we had stayed in touch because she was one of the few people I'd encountered professionally who communicated entirely in facts. It was 3:30 a.m. She answered on the second ring. Nadia. Not a question. I'm sorry for the hour, I said. I was awake. What happened? I walked her through it in order. The calls, the demand, the credit report, the 5 accounts, the total. I read her the account numbers. She was quiet through most of it and I could hear the faint sound of her typing. The Phoenix lease, she said. You said the primary leaseholder defaulted. Yes. I need you to pull the lease document if you can find it. The signature on the cosigner line. Can you access that tonight? I can request it from the lender. Do that now. While we're talking. Pause. NADIA. The account in Nevada. Do you have any family members in Nevada? I didn't answer immediately. My brother lived in Phoenix, I said. Until recently. Another pause. The Phoenix lease is in Phoenix. Yes. Okay. Her voice didn't change. That was one of the things I valued about Constance. She responded to bad news the way an engineer responds to a load-bearing calculation. Without emotion but with complete attention. Here's what I need you to do in the next 20 minutes. Screenshot everything. Every account, every amount, every date. Don't close the app. Document the current state of your credit before anything changes. Already doing it. Good. Second, do not wire any money. Not $1. I know. Third. A brief silence. Your family is currently abroad on the phone with you asking for $42,000 in the middle of the night. That is either a coincidence or it is the most important data point in this situation. I looked at the red banner on my screen. It's not a coincidence, I said. No, said Constance. I don't think it is either. My father called back at 3:48 a.m. I let it ring twice before I answered. NADIA. The lawyer needs the confirmation. Did you check your account? I checked my account, I said. My voice was steady. I had spent the last 18 minutes documenting everything, texting screenshots to Constance, and pulling up a voice memo app on my phone which was recording. I found some things I need to ask you about. This is not the time. There's a line of credit from a Nevada bank in my name, I said. $18,500. I didn't open it. Do you know anything about that? Silence. Dad. NADIA, we can discuss this when we're home. There's also a retail credit card. $4,200. A personal loan for $11,000. 2 apartment leases. One in Phoenix, one in Aurora, where my signature appears as cosigner. I didn't sign either of them. I paused. That's $48,000 in accounts I didn't open, bearing my name and my social security number. I need you to explain that to me. The silence lasted longer this time. I heard my mother's voice in the background again and then my father's voice lower away from the phone and then a shuffling sound. When he came back his voice had changed. The logistics tone was gone. What replaced it was something older and harder. We didn't have a choice, he said. Your credit score is perfect. You never use it. There was. You forged my signature, I said. We were going to pay it back. When Dimitri's situation stabilized. You forged my signature on federal credit applications and a lease agreement. Don't be self-righteous. His voice rose. We did it for the family. Everything we have ever done has been for this family, and you sit in Denver in your apartment and you count your money while your brother is sitting in a room with a foreign police officer. Is there an officer present right now? I said. A beat. What? You said Dimitri is with a police officer. Right now. Is the officer present? Yes, there's an officer here, that's why we need the. Put them on the phone. Dead silence. NADIA. Put the officer on the phone, Dad. I want to speak to them directly. My mother's voice came on, sharp and sudden. What are you doing? Stop this. Wire the money and stop making everything. I'm not wiring money, I said. I am reporting a crime. Please put the officer on the phone. What happened next took about 4 minutes, which felt much longer. There was a muffled exchange. My parents' voices, then a third voice, male accented, official. Then the official voice came through clearly. Hello. This is Officer Teixeira, Policia de Segurança Pública, Lisbon. Officer Teixeira, I said. My name is NADIA Ostroff. I'm calling from Denver, Colorado, United States. I am a victim of identity theft. The individuals currently in your presence, Renata Ostroff, Grigory Ostroff and Dmitry Ostroff, are members of my immediate family. I have evidence that they used my personal identifying information, including my social security number and forged signatures, to open at least 5 fraudulent credit accounts in my name totaling approximately $48,000. Pause. The background noise shifted. You are filing a report? Officer Teixeira said. Yes. I am filing a report. I have screenshots of all 5 accounts timestamped from tonight. I have a financial crimes attorney in Denver on a separate line who is prepared to coordinate with your department and the relevant U.S. authorities. A longer pause. Please hold. I held. Somewhere in Lisbon, I heard my mother say something in a voice that had lost all its earlier authority. I heard my father say her name. I heard Dimitri say something that my father immediately cut off. I sat in my apartment in Denver in the dark, with the radiator ticking and Lentil breathing steadily on my lap, and I did not feel triumphant. I felt something quieter than that. The specific calm of a person who has made an irreversible decision and found it to be the correct one. Officer Teixeira came back on the line. Ms. Ostroff, we will need you to submit a formal complaint through official channels. I can provide you with the case number and the contact information for. Thank you, I said. I'll need that case number. I also need you to understand that any funds wired to the individuals currently in your presence were not authorized by me and should not be treated as voluntary restitution. Understood, said Officer Teixeira. Dry, professional, clean. One moment. My father got back on the line at 4:17 a.m. What did you do? Not a question. A sentence with no oxygen in it. I reported a crime, I said. The crime that was committed against me. You reported your own family. I reported the people who stole my identity, yes. NADIA. His voice cracked, and underneath the crack was something I hadn't heard from him in years. Actual fear. Not performed fear, not the theatrical distress he deployed when he needed money. Real fear. If this goes forward, if there are charges. There will be charges, I said. Federal charges most likely because identity theft involving Social Security numbers is a federal crime in the United States. The Nevada account alone qualifies. Constance, my attorney, will be contacting the FTC, the Social Security Administration, and the credit bureaus today. All 5 accounts will be frozen and flagged as fraudulent. Silence. The Phoenix lease, I continued, is particularly interesting because Dimitri defaulted on it while my name was on the cosigner line, which means there's a civil liability exposure on top of the criminal one. The creditor has grounds to pursue collection from me, and I have grounds to pursue recovery from him. Constance will be filing that paperwork this week. You're doing this over money. My mother's voice now taking over. You're destroying your family over money. You destroyed your family over my money, I said. There's a difference. We were going to pay it back. You've been saying that since 2015, I said. I have a spreadsheet. $47,300 across 9 years. None of it returned. 0. And that was before the $48,000 in accounts I didn't authorize. If we're being precise, and I am always precise, the total is $95,300. The silence that followed was a different kind of silence. Not the stunned silence of people who'd been caught. The heavy silence of people who had known somewhere that a number like that existed and had simply chosen never to say it out loud. My brother came on the line. NADIA. His voice was the youngest I'd heard it sound since he was actually young. Come on, you know how things are. You know how hard it's been. Dimitri, I said. The Phoenix lease has your name on it as primary. You defaulted with my name as cosigner. I need you to understand that Constance will be filing a civil recovery claim against you personally. Not against Dad. Against you. He didn't respond. Put Officer Teixeira back on, I said. He did. The next 72 hours were administrative. Methodical. Constance moved through the process the way she moved through everything. With precision and no wasted motion. All 5 fraudulent accounts were frozen by the end of that first day. Credit Shield flagged my file with a 7-year fraud alert. I placed security freezes with all 3 major bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, by noon. The FTC complaint was filed at 8 a.m. Denver time, case number assigned by 9:15. The Social Security Administration notation went in by end of business. The Nevada lender confirmed within 48 hours that the $18,500 line of credit had been opened using a copy of my driver's license and a forged signature. They initiated their own fraud investigation. The online lender who'd issued the $11,000 personal loan confirmed the same. The Phoenix lease creditor, a property management company called Sunridge Residential, was already in collections. With Constance's documentation, they redirected collection efforts away from my name and toward the primary leaseholder within 5 business days. Constance filed the civil recovery claim against Dimitri for $18,800, representing the Phoenix lease arrears plus attorney fees. My parents returned to Aurora 11 days later. No criminal charges were filed in Lisbon. Officer Teixeira determined that the incident at the restaurant was a civil matter and released them, but the U.S. federal complaint remained open. Constance advised me that federal identity theft cases of this scale typically resolve through deferred prosecution agreements requiring full restitution. Full restitution in this case was $48,000. I didn't call them when they landed. It was a Thursday morning in late November when I finally felt the shape of things settle. I made coffee, a pour-over, the slow kind, the kind that requires attention. The Denver skyline through my kitchen window was pale gray-blue with early winter light, the mountains just visible at the edge of the frame, dusted. Lentil was on the windowsill doing the slow blink that meant she was content. I had a full inbox. 3 new appraisal requests, a follow-up from a developer in Cherry Creek, a scheduling email from Constance's office. Normal things. The ordinary weight of a life that belongs to you. I sat down with my coffee and I opened my spreadsheet, the one I'd kept for 9 years, and I added one final line. A notation, not a number. Account closed. My phone had been quiet for 11 days. No missed calls. No walls of notifications at 3 in the morning. I picked it up once, looked at it, set it back down. I went back to work. Have you ever been the safety net for people who would let you drown? Tell me in the comments. I want to know how far this story travels.